For more, we turn to Tim Alberta. He's a national political reporter for Politico magazine. He joins us now. So, Tim, can Congress really tackle health care and a funding measure in the same week, or is this sort of political posturing by the White House?
Well, it's extremely unlikely. I think the White House would love to get a health care bill done as quickly as possible. I think they wanted it done a month ago, obviously, and that didn't work out very well. And I think you've had House Republicans from both the sort of centrist wing and from the conservative wing of the conference working together, trying to hash out a compromise. And by some accounts, they are close to having an agreement there that the rest of the House Republican conference will be able to review and sort of weigh in on. But these things are complicated, and the process here moves very slowly, I think deliberately so, and the idea that they're going to come back next week and pass a health care bill while they're also trying to simultaneously keep the government funded past next Friday, I think is just fantasy. There's just no way that's going to happen. So, you know, the White House would love to see this get done and would love to see it get done next week, but I think Paul Ryan and the rest of the leadership team on the Hill, they know better. They understand that if they can hope to get a health care bill over the finish line, it's probably, you're looking at probably, you know, at least another month or so, working out all of the, you know, fine-tuning a lot of these details. There's no reason to rush this. They've taken a long time already to try and sort of maneuver this and massage the details to appease the different factions within the conference. And the idea that they're going to pull all of this together in a matter of days is just silly.
Yet the president certainly sounded pretty optimistic. And, you know, you wrote that the president previously told conservative Republicans to focus on the big picture, not to get hung up on the little things. I'm paraphrasing. He used maybe different words. I'm wondering if you think maybe that strategy is working, and perhaps that's where the confidence is coming from.
I think the confidence is coming from a total detachment from the legislative process, to be quite honest. I think the president does not understand how the legislative process works. I don't think he has any great familiarity with the nuances of what's happening on the Hill in terms of how the sausage is actually being made. I think when he gets one positive report from a member of his team or from the legislative affairs staff, then he turns around and says to the media or says to the general public, oh, that things are going great and that they're really, really close, when in fact things probably aren't going that great, and in fact they're probably not that close. And that's not to say this can't get done at some point, but the idea that it's going to get done next week, when all of these members have been back in their districts for the last couple of weeks for the Easter recess, they've been getting an earful from their constituents, the idea that they're going to hop on a plane, come back to D.C., and within 72 hours or so sign on to a bill that nobody's actually seen yet in terms of what the details are, again, this is just fantasy. It's never going to happen. So the White House projecting confidence here speaks more to the White House not really understanding the dynamics of the legislative process more than the White House actually feeling confident that this thing's going to get done.
Do you think there's more to that, though, than, okay, so one argument is maybe they don't understand what's going on, but I gotta believe that there's people there who understand what's going on and know how the sausage is made. Maybe there's something else. Maybe there's a reason that they're projecting that confidence. Maybe the audience is not the lawmakers. Maybe it's Trump supporters.
To Anne-Marie's point, Tim, I think the question that a lot of people will have is, doesn't it look worse to say that you're going to get this done before the end of the first 100 days than to just let that milestone pass and say we are still continuing to work on bringing the best health care plan for the United States?
Unless you're going to blame someone else for it falling through. Sorry, we're having a private conversation over here. What do you say?
No, well, look, I think those are valid points. I think, you know, ultimately, if the White House is interested in playing the expectations game here, they're not doing a very good job of it. I think that they're probably setting themselves up for a little bit of a fall. But at the same time, I do think that it's important, if you're the president and you've made some of these big sweeping promises to your constituents, to your voters, to the core conservative base of the Republican Party, then you need to at least look as though you're attempting to deliver on them, and maybe even on the verge of delivering on them, so that people don't start to get antsy. And I think that's probably what we're seeing. I think President Trump does not want to appear ambivalent or at all insecure in his position from the White House. He wants to project strength. He wants to project confidence. And at the same time, look, I do think there are folks in the White House who do understand the legislative process, to the point you made a minute ago. But I think that how it gets translated to the president is an entirely different story. And I think that, you know, telling the president that, hey, we might have some semblance of an agreement here between some of the moderates and some of the conservatives, and you know they're going to keep hashing this out, but we're getting close, and the whole conference is going to review it over the weekend. To President Trump, that may sound like great, we're on the doorstep of a victory here, when in fact, this is probably just kind of a preliminary thing. You're going to have probably 3 or 4 more rounds of reviews and discussions and back and forth negotiating over these details that are being hashed out currently. So I don't know if it's just the president getting bad information or the president misinterpreting the information that he's getting.
All right, on that spending bill, what are we expecting from Democrats in terms of pushback on certain issues like Planned Parenthood or the border wall?
Well, I think you could expect significant pushback on either of those issues if, in fact, they are touched in the spending bill. I don't know that they will be, and if they are, look, I don't know that you have many Democrats who are aching to line up and vote for this in the first place. I don't think, I think there are probably a handful of Democrats in both chambers who would prefer not to see a government shutdown, but ultimately, I don't think Democrats are worried about a government shutdown. I think, in fact, they believe that Republicans would be blamed just as they were blamed back in 2013, and I think that they believe that the new president would shoulder a lot of the public criticism for allowing the government to shut down just 3 and some odd months into his presidency. So I don't know that there's any great political incentive here for Democrats to cooperate with the Republicans. And Republicans, knowing that, I think that may embolden them, in fact, to include some things in any kind of a spending measure that would otherwise be polarizing and controversial, because I think Paul Ryan and his leadership team understands that they're probably not going to win over many Democrats anyway. So why not try to slip in some of these more controversial provisions?
All right, to be continued. Tim Alberta from Politico. Thank you as always, my friend.
Thank you, guys.